Hi, welcome. This is a 40-minute intermediate vinyasa flow. We'll get right into it and start in a child's pose. So take the knees to about mat width, let the toes touch, and then set the hips back down onto the heels. Reach forward with the hands and set the head down. In child's pose, we'll begin to connect with our breath. Breathing into the back body. And maybe using this opportunity to set an intention for this practice. And if Ujjayi breathing is in your practice, you can begin to tap into your pranayama. Now just walk the elbows in towards the head. Bring the hands to prayer hands and set the thumbs at the back of the neck. Once you get there, just walk your elbows forward as much as you can, just until you feel this stretch in the forearms coming from the armpits. And release. Coming up into a tabletop. Setting the hips back into our child's pose, reaching forward, and then as you inhale, coming into a cow pose, so arching the back. Exhale, round the spine, child's pose. Inhale to come forward, drop the belly, tailbone and head lifts, cow pose. Exhale, round through the spine, set the hips back, child's pose. Inhale, come forward into your cow pose. Exhale, round the spine, cat. Inhale to come forward, drop the belly, tailbone and head lifts. And then bringing the hands underneath the shoulders again. Tuck under all 10 toes, push into the hands and just let the knees hover about an inch off the ground. Little baby cat back, so rounding in the back slightly, and then release the knees back down. We'll do that 2 more times, so pushing into the hands to let the knees hover off the ground. Engage in the core and release. And we'll do 1 more, letting the knees hover, baby cat back and release. Now we're going to transition into a modified side plank on the right side, to keep the right knee where it is and let the right calf come out to an angle. You're coming up on your right knee, right hand. The left foot is coming down. So your foot is in line with your knee, is in line with your hand. Take the left hand up, look up at that left hand. Bump the hips up. And then begin to reach that left arm up across the ear, pointing the fingers forward. Nice stretch for the side body. And then begin to float that left leg up, flexing into that foot. And then bend into the left leg and set the foot behind you, so we're sort of coming into a modified wild thing. Try and shine the chest up towards the ceiling now, opening up through the front body. And then release. Coming back to tabletop. We'll take the same on the other side. So keep the left knee where it is, left calf comes out to an angle. And we're coming up left side. So it's a modified side plank. Left hand, left knee is down, and the right foot is also down on the mat. Stack the shoulders, look up at the right hand. And then begin to just take that right arm across the ear, pointing the fingertips out in front of you. Reach, reach, reach. Find this side body stretch. And then begin to float that right leg up, flex into the foot. And then bend into that right leg and set the right foot behind you. And then open the chest, spin the chest open to up towards the ceiling into our modified wild thing. Take up space and then release. And let's tuck all 10 toes under and come up into our first downward facing dog. So making sure our feet are at hip width, hands are at shoulder width, and we'll just pedal the legs out, opening up through the backs of the legs and trying to shine our sit bones up towards the ceiling. And then float the right leg up. And then exhale, take that right foot to the outside of the right hand. Drop the back knee down. Really try to thread the chest through the shoulders, so making space in the spine. Sinking down into the hips, opening up into that left quad. And then tuck under that back foot, lift the knee up, coming back into downward facing dog. Same on the other side, so inhale to float that left leg up, and then as you exhale, step that left foot to the outside of the left hand. Back knee comes down, top of the foot comes down. Sink low into the hips. And stay open in the chest. Tuck under that back foot, step back, downward facing dog. And then begin to walk up to the front of the mat and come into your ragdoll. So you can have a deep bend in the knees if that feels better for your lower back, or you can straighten the legs and work on the stretch of your hamstrings. Inhale, come up to a halfway lift, and then just walk the hands all the way as far as you can over to the right. So the feet stay as they are. We're just making a little rotation with our upper body, and then walk the hands all the way over to the left. And come back. And then slowly rise all the way up, coming up to our mountain pose, Tadasana. And then inhale, sweep the arms up. And then grab hold of your left wrist with your right hand and lean over to the right. Gently pulling on that left arm to find an opening in the left side body. Come back up and then over to the other side. So just grab hold of your right wrist with your left hand and lean over to the left, gently pulling on that right arm to find length in the right side body. And then we'll come in for a shoulder expansion. So just clasp the hands behind the back, take an inhale, open the shoulders, exhale with a flat back, fold all the way down, maybe bringing the fists up overhead, really finding this deep opening in the shoulders. And then we're going to alternately bend into one knee and then the other. So taking the left shoulder to the left knee, and then taking the right shoulder to the right knee. And do that a couple of times. And then release the clasp of the hands and roll all the way back up to a stand. Stepping up to the front of the mat. Let's inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, swan dive forward, fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, plant the hands, step back. to a plank. Everyone set their knees down for the first one. Really hug the elbows into the rib cage as you come down. Inhale to a baby cobra. And exhale through tabletop to downward facing dog. Just warming up with some sun salutations. Take a few breaths here in downward facing dog. And then come all the way up onto the toes, bend into the knees, look to the front of the mat, and then take a big step or some baby steps all the way to the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, root to rise all the way up, tall mountain. Exhale, hands come down through heart center. Inhale, tall mountain, look up at the thumbs. Exhale, swan dive with a flat back, forward fold. Inhale, look forward, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, this time option to jump back into chaturanga if that's in your practice. And we'll inhale, flip over the feet, upward facing dog, and exhale, downward facing dog. Modify as necessary, you don't have to completely follow what I'm doing. Come all the way up onto the toes, deep bend into the knees, look forward. And this time you can maybe practice hopping up to the front of the mat. Inhale when you get there to your halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, tall mountain. Exhale, hands down, come down through heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Tall mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, plant the hands, hop or step back through chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, flip over the toes, downward facing dog. Make sure you're not holding any tension in the neck. And then we'll inhale, sweep the right leg up, three-legged dog. Take a few moments here. Try and keep the hip nice and square. And then as you exhale, step that right foot in between the hands. Set the back knee down. Coming up, just placing your hands on your knee to bring you up, and then if you want to come into half moon, you can take your arms up overhead, palms touch, maybe a baby back bend if that feels okay. And then bringing the hands down through heart center, taking that left hand on top of the right knee, twisting open to the right, maybe taking your right hand down the back of the left leg. And release from that twist. Frame the foot with the hands and then sit the hips back slightly, coming into our half Hanumanasana or half splits. If your hands don't reach the mat, you can always have them at your hips and just work on just lengthening out through our hamstring. For those of you that want a little bit of an extra IT band stretch, you can begin to walk both hands to the outside of the right leg, twisting with the upper body and finding this deep stretch in the muscles that run down the outside of the leg. And unwind, bend back into that right knee, frame the foot with the hands, and step back, downward facing dog. Option to stay in downward facing dog or come through your vinyasa, inhaling through plank. Exhale, come down chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And we'll move on to the other side. Inhale, sweep that left leg up, keep the hips square. I'm just going to hold it for a few moments, working on the strength of our quad and the length of that right hamstring. And then we'll exhale, step the left foot in between the hands, right knee comes down. Use the hands on top of that left knee just to bring you up, and then you can sweep the arms up overhead, palms are together, and maybe take a back bend here. Keep tucking the tailbone under so the back bend is coming from the upper back instead of the lower back. And then come back up, taking the hands to heart center and then twisting over to the left. Right hand is coming on top of the left knee. Left hand is maybe coming down the back of the right leg. Twisting open to the left. And then begin to unwind. And we'll come into our half splits. So take the hips back, straightening through that left leg. Flex through the left foot. And then you either have your hands at your hips, or if your fingertips can come down onto the mat, you can just work on keeping length in the spine and folding forward to find that deep hamstring stretch. You can stay here at center. If you want your IT band stretch, you can walk both hands over to the outside of the left leg. Taking some deep breaths here. And unwind. Place the hands out to frame that left foot. Pick up that back knee and step back, downward facing dog. Coming through your optional vinyasa, inhaling to plank. Exhale, coming down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Find your breath here. And then inhale, sweep the right leg up. Exhale, right knee comes in towards the nose. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, right knee comes in towards the nose. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, knee to nose. Hug the knee into the chest and then step the foot in between the hands. The back knee comes down, coming up into our crescent moon. And then we're going to come into a really deep quad stretch. So bend that back knee. See if you can grab the top of that foot with your left hand. You can stay there if that's enough. Otherwise, maybe you grab the foot with both hands and just work on drawing the heel in towards the glute. You want to bring a little twist into it. You can take that left hand on top of the right knee, start twisting open to the right and bringing that left heel in towards the left glute with your right hand. So a really deep quad stretch here. And release. Hands come down to frame the foot. Pick up that back knee. Set the back heel down. We're coming into a warrior one shape. So the back foot is at 45 degrees and we have our hips square to the front. You can check in with your hips here by taking your left hand to the outside of the right thigh and just kind of maneuvering yourself so that you have these nice square hips, and then when you're happy you can take your arms up. Come to clasp the hands behind the back. Inhale, little back bend here, open through the shoulders, look up, and then exhale, coming into a humble warrior. So you can either stay with your chest hovering above your right thigh, or you can go a little bit deeper and take the shoulder to the inside of the right thigh and come down, looking back at that back foot. Trying to just take the arms up overhead, deep shoulder stretch here. And then coming all the way back up, release the hands, and then straighten through that front leg. Inhale to find length, and exhale, fold forward, pyramid pose. So both legs are straight, or as straight as you can get them. If you do need to bend a little bit into the right knee just to reach the mat, then you can do so. Keep a nice flat back as you fold over the right leg. Coming back up, bending into that right knee to come into your warrior one. This time open the arms out. We're taking eagle arms, so take left arm over right, and you're either coming in just for a single wrap or a double wrap. Lean back, little back bend, looking up at the ceiling. And then exhale. This is a little humble warrior variation. So again, you can come just to hover, or you can bring your right shoulder to the inside of the right knee and come all the way down. Trying to get the forearms parallel with the ground. And then coming up, keep the eagle arms, step up to the front of the mat, and then ground down into the left foot. We're going to come into eagle leg, so let's wrap that right leg on top of the left. You can either have your right toes on the mat, or maybe you come all the way into a double wrap. So eagle legs, eagle arms, and then sit back, sink nice and low. Bend into the knees. Breathe here. Just try to draw the elbows up so that you get that nice stretch in the shoulder blades. And release, unwind, shake it all out, shake the arms out, shake the legs out. And we'll vinyasa back to our downward facing dog. So inhale, sweep the arms up, tall mountain. Exhale, swan dive, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, plant the hands, jump back or step back, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Second side. Inhale, sweep that left leg up. Exhale, bring knee to nose. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, knee to nose. Pause here, really hug the knee into the chest, and then step the foot in between the hands. Drop the back knee down, top of the foot comes down. Coming up. And then we're coming in for our deep quad stretch. So bend that back leg, grab the top of the foot with your right hand, and then maybe reach around with your left hand as well, drawing that heel into the glute. And then we'll take our little twist here. So right hand comes on top of the left knee, twisting over to the left, keeping hold of that back foot with your left hand. Deep quad stretch. Take a few breaths here. If at any moment it feels like too much, you can always ease out, or otherwise just keep trying to sink the hips down. Unwind, and then coming in for our warrior one. So the back heel comes down 45 degrees, keeping the hips square and doing that little check. So you're bringing your right hand to the outside of the left thigh, trying to really pull that right hip forward. And then once you're happy, you can take both arms up. Warrior one, keeping that back foot clamped to the ground. And then taking the hands behind you, clasp the hands the opposite way, so the way that feels a bit weird. Take a big inhale, back bend, looking up. Exhale, come forward. You can either hover or come all the way down, taking that left elbow to the inside of the left knee. looking back at that back foot and taking the arms up overhead. Humble warrior. Keep hugging that left hip in. And release, come back up. And then straighten through that front leg. Inhale to find length in the spine, and then as you exhale, you're folding forward. You can always have your hands at your hips if the ground's not accessible. Otherwise, you can have a little bend in that left knee to help reach the ground. Try and keep a nice flat back, folding over in our pyramid pose. Trying to keep the hips square, so keep pulling that right hip forward. And then coming back up, warrior one. And this time, eagle arms. So left arm comes underneath the right for a single wrap or a double wrap. Keep pulling the elbows up and then taking our back bend here, tucking the tailbone under, and then coming forward into our humble warrior variation. So you can either hover halfway or bring the left shoulder to the inside of the left knee and come all the way down. Keeping a nice tight wrap on the arms, squeezing them together, finding space at the shoulder blades. And keep breathing. Coming all the way back up, keep the eagle arms, step towards the front of the mat, feet together, and then ground down into the right foot. Pick the left leg up and wrap it on top of the right. You can have your toes on the ground for a little kickstand, or maybe you can come into a double wrap in the legs as well. Sit back in your imaginary chair, sink down low, keep pulling the elbows up. Keep squeezing into the arms. Nice steady breaths. Notice what's happened to your breath. Just really try to keep it steady. And unwind, shake it out. And we'll take a vinyasa back to down dog. Inhale, sweep the arms up and over. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands. Jump or step back, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog. And then as you exhale, we're coming into child's pose. Sorry, I lied when I said we were coming into down dog. We're actually going to chill out in child's pose, which is even better. And we'll do that little forearm stretch again. So bend into the elbows, the thumbs come to the back of the neck, and then walk the elbows forward. Sink down, chest coming down towards the mat. And slowly begin to come out. And set yourself back in a downward facing dog. Making sure the neck is nice and loose. Spinning the sit bones up towards the ceiling. And then rolling forward into a plank position. Shoulders above wrists, and then roll onto the right side. So we're coming into a side plank. Left arm comes up. You can always modify your side plank by bringing that left foot to the middle of the mat, or you can stagger the feet. Either way, bump the hips up, and then we're going to do some lateral crunches. So bring the left arm underneath you, crunch, open it up, back out again, and then bringing that left hand underneath your right armpit, bring it back up. One last crunch, coming back to side plank and coming back into our plank, taking a vinyasa, exhaling to come down, inhaling for our back bend, exhale, downward facing dog. And coming back into our plank so we can do the other side. Come into a side plank on the left side and modify as needed, as I'm demonstrating. Right arm is up, shoulders are stacking, and then we'll do those lateral crunches. So bringing that right hand and scooping it underneath your left armpit as you crunch. And then inhale, bring it back up. Exhale to scoop it under. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, last one. Inhale, back to side plank. Come through your plank, take your vinyasa, or you can go straight to down dog if you want to. Come back to your breath. And then inhale, sweep the right leg up. Exhale. Bring it forward into a pigeon pose or half pigeon. Settle in here. If you're feeling like your hips are not square, you can bring a cushion or a blanket underneath that right hip just to raise it up a little bit. Couple of breaths up here and then slowly begin to come down. You can come down onto the forearms. If that's enough, stay here. Or you can begin to come all the way down, bringing the forehead onto the mat. Keep that the right foot flexed to protect the knee joint. If you feel any pain in the knee, please do come out of it and take a different hip stretch variation. Try to unclench if you're feeling like you're clenching in your glute. And then we're going to come into a little twisting posture here. So bring the left hand and just lace it underneath the right armpit. And you can stay here with the left side down on your mat, or you can come into a bind, bringing that right arm behind your back, maybe grabbing hold of the right toes. So we're getting a nice shoulder stretch, a shoulder opening, as well as the hip stretch that we get from our pigeon pose. You can always keep your right hand just at your lower back if it's not accessible to grab hold of the foot. Slowly unwind, coming up, planting the hands down, tucking under the back toes, sweep that right leg back up, three-legged dog, and then let the back of the knee breathe. Maybe make some hip circles, anything to get the blood back into the hip flexor. And come back to your downward facing dog. And we'll take the same postures on the other side. So sweep the left leg up, and then exhale, bend the knee and bring the leg in front of you, coming into your pigeon pose. So take a moment here to kind of wiggle into it. Get as comfortable as you can in this kind of intense stretch. Lengthen out through the spine for a few breaths. Again, bringing a prop underneath that left hip if you need it. And then begin to come down, either on the forearms, staying here, or you can begin to come all the way down, bringing the forehead just to rest on top of the mat. Take some nice steady breaths here, really focusing on releasing any tension and any sort of clenching in that hip. Try to unclench your jaw. And then coming in for our twist. So bringing that right arm underneath the left armpit, threading it through. The right side of the head comes down. And then if you want to try for the bind, you can bring that left arm, sweep it behind your back. Either keep it just at the lower back, or maybe you can grab hold of the left toes. coming in for a bind. And take some nice deep breaths here. And slowly begin to unwind. Come up, plant the hands down, tuck under the back toes, sweep that left leg all the way up, and any movements here to stretch out that leg. And come back, downward facing dog. And then we'll bring the knees down, coming up to stand on our knees. We're going to come into camel pose for our back bend. So bring the hands to the lower back, either fingers pointing up or down. You've got the toes tucked under of both feet. And then we really want to be pushing the hips forward as we lean back, so that the back bend is coming from the upper back and we're not dumping any pressure into the lower spine. Look up at the ceiling. If you feel like you can go deeper, you can bring the hands on top of the heels. Remembering always to push the hip bones forward. And then if you want to go further still, you can untuck the toes and maybe let the head drop back, opening through the throat. And then slowly come out. Come to sit on the heels and then just take the legs out in front of you. Lie down on your back. And then pick up the feet and just cup the knees with the hands and begin to draw some small circles a few times in one direction and a few times in the other direction, just beginning to give the lower back a bit of a massage and release out of that back bend that we just did. And then we'll wrap our right leg on top of the left for eagle legs again. Bring the arms out by your sides and then take both knees over to the right as you look to the left. Coming in for a deep supine twist, neutralizing through the back. If it's too much to have the legs in eagle wrap, you can just have the legs normal next to each other. And take both knees over to the right. Bring the knees back up through center, switch the cross, so left leg crosses on top of on top of the right. Take both knees over to the left as you gaze over to the right. And please do have the legs uncrossed if this feels too much. Bring the knees back up through center. And then we'll come into our final posture, Shavasana, giving our body a chance to absorb the practice that we've just done. Let the arms be heavy, let the feet fall open. Close down the eyes. Release your breath. If you were doing your pranayama ujjayi practice throughout this yoga class, then you can release the breath, let it come to its natural rhythm. Try to just scan the body, notice if you're holding tension anywhere and really try to release. Feel this sense of melting into the mat. And this is where I'll leave you, always encouraging you to stay in your Shavasana for as long as you want to. Please allow yourself time to take Shavasana. Give yourself permission to be still. I hope you've enjoyed this 40-minute slow flow. Please hit subscribe if you want to keep up to date with any new videos that come out. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.